Hey, Coach, why don't you open us up with a few remarks on what you saw from looking back at the UCLA game film, and then what you and the staff have your team preparing for Saturday's game in California.
Yeah, certainly proud of the effort, the way our guys competed. There's a lot of things we could clean up in all three phases. There's mistakes I could point out, and we had a lot of penalties that some of them were really silly that could cost us. But our guys' focus and energy was good. Certainly we got some outstanding individual performances, and I was proud with the way they reacted last night in our walkthrough. I mean, it was a big win and we enjoyed it, but they were ready to get back to work last night and understand how big this game is now. And as I told them, the more you win, the more is at stake, and there's certainly a lot at stake for this one coming up.
After seeing Khalil tape perform the last 2 weeks the way he has, what was the reasoning maybe in the offseason? What did you not see from him in order to just outright make
That's like, yeah, God plays really good, and it's like you open yourself up. Where the heck's he been? What's wrong? Why hasn't he been starting? You know what? And I understand the question. Frankly, he was a young guy still learning, and Brandon played better in August camp and at the start of the season. And Khalil got, it sounds like coach making a reason, but he got hurt. And for about 3 weeks, he could hardly throw. And, but at the Colorado week, he was healthy and had a good week of practice. And we talked about it. I said, listen, may get an opportunity. I didn't know when it was going to happen. And when he got his opportunity, he's made the most of it. So, I'm not totally surprised that he's performing really well. But at the same time, this is the healthiest he's been in a month, and he's actually playing better than even we anticipated that he would. Particularly in a running wise. I mean, he's running away from people, and he's 20 pounds lighter than last year and all that. So he's still learning, and so we're not going to expect 200 yards or 300 yards rushing and whatever QBR, quarterback rating, whatever that is every week. But I love where his mindset is right now and how he's taking charge of his opportunity.
Is there, when you talk about quarterback rating, is there a number that you would put on him and say we want to?
I have no idea how that formula is. I think there's probably something to that quarterback rating, that the higher it is, the better he's played. But I usually just look at the film and grade decision making and making plays that are there and all that. And he's been really sharp, of course, for 2 weeks.
How many times afterward did you tell him never to leave his feet on the side?
Oh, well, we've talked about it. I think you guys know I've talked about him and all our quarterbacks before about, touchdown, first down, get down, and, try to avoid the big hit. And, but competitive guys sometimes will put themselves out there. But as a quarterback, you want to make sure sometimes you want to get to the next play too. So, but I think that game was a little extra special for guys from Southern California because they all know each other, and he got guys on that team that was from his high school, and so he was into it for sure.
It seemed like there were maybe some communication issues at various times during the game with him. He was like looking over at the sideline, kind of with like this. What was going on?
No,
there?
not issues. Just communication. Period. We try to help him out a little bit. He's seeing he's really seeing the field pretty well, but we got a couple coaches in the box that relay what they see, and I communicate with them from the sideline. So our tempo wasn't fast all the time, but that was a little bit by design because we're trying to run the football and give our defense a little bit of a break. So we purposely slowed the tempo down, and not necessarily for Khalil, but for our defense to try to take some time off the clock, give him a little bit more of a rest.
You mentioned that Khalil was injured, but he wasn't listed on the injury report. Any of the
Oh, he wasn't?
Any
Well,
reason for that?
how about that? No, I mean, yeah, he would. Yeah, he had a dinged up shoulder. It probably could have been on the report, but why put it on there? Most of the time, I would tell you, Blair is 100% honest with the injury report, but sometimes he'll. No, it's not Blair's fault. But sometimes it doesn't make it on there.
Special teams were obviously not probably one of the areas you would like to clean up. What were some of the issues that you saw?
You know what, Nick Reinhardt, our star snapper, who's really good, is out for the year. And Nate had snapped pretty well. He had a couple snaps in this game that maybe weren't the sharpest, but Jake had gotten it down. So, we got, I guess, work on some of that. But Trevor came in and snapped well. And then the punt, the most disappointing part was the punt that we allowed in, the return back 40 yards or something. We just a little bit late getting down in some of our coverage lanes, and the punt's not exactly where we want it to be. So we do got to get better on some of that. It's going to cost us a game.
Do Nate or Trevor have enough time to work on snaps since they have other jobs?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's not as much time as maybe the Nick Reinhardt has that has 2 hours of practice or an hour and a half to work on the skill, but you're just snapping it from like 7 yards from here to here. In about 5 minutes, you can get a whole lot of reps, so that'll be okay.
What have you seen on tape from Cal, and how surprised are you at the way they performed, especially last week against Washington?
Yeah, I watched the Wazoo game, most of it. It was unbelievable how impressive they were in all three phases. I'm talking about, I mean, they got 7 turnovers on defense, but their offense was phenomenal. Their special teams played well. I mean, it was just a total team effort, playing with a lot of confidence. And so we're playing a really confident, Cal team at their place. And our guys will see that on film. They may have paid attention a little bit to it in the game, but we had a game the next day. So I think they're focused and they understand, just judging on last night's walkthrough and meetings, how good Cal's playing right now.
Obviously, you're not going to have Parker Zellers for the first half of that game because of the targeting. Are you concerned about the defensive tackle depth because of that, and with Luka not having played last year?
Yeah, we'll see where Luka's at in the next few days. I mean, Parker's a really good player, and so that's where that penalty is. If it's a close one, is you really like, if some legitimate. I mean, I guess they're all legitimate, but a blatant targeting thing, boy, okay, he's got to send a strong message. But some of them, they're like, is it really targeting? Is it not targeting? Sitting out a half or a first half of the next game is a really, really severe penalty, and it's what it is.
Did you think it was targeting after looking at it again?
I thought it looked like he had, the definition by crown of the helmet, you want to get that out of the game, and so we understand why they called that. The question I have is, are we being consistent in every game and every call? Like, it looked pretty similar to what happened at the end of the Houston game, and that was reviewed and not called targeting. But again, those are, I think, it's subjective enough that you may not get the exact same call. But I think the intent of the rule of getting the crown of the head out and getting everybody to quit ducking their heads, so to speak, I understand that part of it, but it's not always consistent.
Was there ever a point where you thought you might not see the Nick Wilson again that we saw on Saturday night, with him looking like he was running again like he did?
That's a fair question. There was, when you're guys, Nick's a hard worker that loves football, you are wondering, like, gosh, can he stay healthy? Can he get to his physical self? And you do wonder about it more for his sake than anything else. And but he's been able to stay that way. And not only is he physical in his running, which he's a physical guy anyway, but in his blocking. And all three of those guys, JJ and Nick and Zach, when he gets his chance, take a lot of pride in their blocking ability, and certainly they all run hard too.
Did Nick Wilson lose any weight? Because he looked like
I think he is a little, without looking at we weigh the guys every week, without looking at what he weighed last week, I think he is in pretty good shape. And he was in good shape when camp started, but like he and Khalil and a couple other guys have even, with our practices and what we do, we think it helps get him in shape. He's in better shape now than he has been in a long time.
You think maybe that's the reason why he was always getting injured? Maybe he was more focused on his bulk rather than being slimmer?
No, I don't think so. I think a lot of times the guys when get injured, just bad luck. It's just unfortunate. We looked at, I think you guys have been covering us, that, what was the difference between last year when we got a bunch of guys hurt and the year before when we were getting guys hurt, and then a few years ago when we didn't have any of them. So the training methods and all that, we've looked at everything, and I think it's been the same. Some of it's luck, but the guys, I think, so much nutrition too. They've taken great pride in that.
Is Jace's growth in coverage just kind of in the natural progression of, a kid coming from a freshman to a sophomore or junior, or has he really done?
What was that again?
Jace Whitaker's growth in coverage, is that just kind of the natural progression of a guy getting older?
I think a little bit of that, and we had to I know Coach Yates, we've talked about, playing when we're in our zone defense, being able to play the ball better, coming off the quarterback's hands. And I know they've worked hard on that, and we did a better job of that in this game in our zone defense of playing the ball a little bit better, breaking on the ball a little sooner.
This is a series that's had some crazy games, Arizona against Cal, in not just recent history, but for decades. What do you remember about the last time that you guys played them with the Hail Mary?
Oh, that's right. Was that the last time we played them? It was, huh? Yeah, what a improbable outcome that came. We was dead in the water and kept playing, and didn't think we'd ever get enough possessions or be able to score enough to beat them, because we couldn't stop them. And I think, didn't we get an onside kick? Did we get an onside kick? Yeah, which doesn't happen very often. So, yeah, we were really lucky in that game. That was, I don't know if you have too many of those. That was nuts.
So, Kwesi Meshack was a guy who was kind of off the radar as far as the depth chart goes, and then he comes into the game and plays. How valuable is it to have a guy like that on the roster?
Yeah, he spent half the week on the scout team, so he was rolling back and forth doing scout team work, and with injuries and all that, we just throw him in there, let's see what he can do, and he competed. And I think they're probably limited in some of the defenses to call because he's spent half the week on the scout team, but he's been around the program a little bit. Kwesi's been here a while, and a great young man's worked really hard. And we're going to continue to move. I think there's progress being made, but at the same time, we want to make sure there's competition, all positions. So we may make a few position changes and move a guy from corner to safety to provide some depth there.
How have you evaluated Bowers, their quarterback?
Yeah, boy, he's impressive in the last game. Competitive. Can make all the throws, runs, and he's been really good. And this has just been a day and a half of watching film. I haven't got the rest of the week to do it, but in the last game, I think he'll have a lot of confidence just based on what he did against a really good Washington State defense.
How much of Kyle Wilborn's sacks, how much of that was the scheme and the play call versus just him and his own individual?
Yeah, a couple of them were just chasing down late, a good effort, and then there were a couple of nice calls, some twist game that Kylan really timed it up well. And he's a physical guy, for a true freshman. But man, is he, a couple years in the weight room, he's going to be an outstanding player. And he's played pretty consistently. Like I said, for a true freshman, that's a hard position physically to get thrown in at defensive end. And you're going against some really good big guys. And he's done a nice job, gives us a lift. We signed him as a guy, okay, this guy can maybe help us as a pass rusher. Didn't know it would be this much this soon.
Those twist games you mentioned, was that something you saw, again, it wasn't anything that looked real complicated, but is that something maybe you thought would work against UCLA based on their scheme?
Yeah, I think, you got to talk to the defensive staff about that. But I do think, we're not big enough to overpower people, just like our guy, we're bigger and stronger than you, and you're just going to bull rush and what have you. So we got to be creative in some of our stuff defensively, movement-wise, and we have to be we can't be here we are, come get us kind of team. And Cal's not the same way either. They move their front a lot. So unless you're just big, dominant, and better than everybody line up across them, you got to do some creative things defensively to try to create some pressure.
There were obviously a lot of penalties in this game, but a couple that couldn't really figure out what was happening. The sideline violation.
Yeah, there used to be warning if one of the side referee bumps into a coach or somebody in the white. It used to be a coach, there's a warning the next time a call. This time it was just flat out called 15-yard penalty. That's pretty severe. It's been a point of emphasis, so I think half the game I'm usually yelling to get off the white for coaches because they want to get in there and yell something to instructions to players, and we got called on that one on the pick, so we just got to make sure we're not on the white and get out of the officials' way.
What did Derek Bowles do exactly to get a...
I'm not sure. He said something, and he doesn't need to do that. That's, like I said, those are things we just can't have. And, play our guys know better than that. Derek's a very competitive guy and all that, but those 15-yard penalties, those aren't not very smart.
Coach, how's the morale of Brandon Dawkins?
I talked to him a little bit last week. I hadn't talked to him since this game. I think I thought he was terrific in how he handled everything last week. And I told him, I said, I still feel we got two starting quarterbacks, and he's had a good week of practice, and he seemed pretty focused last night. It's good.
Rich, obviously when you have a guy like Khalil who can make people miss, he doesn't necessarily need a lot of great blocks to get to where he wants to do, but how would you categorize the blocking right now? Would you categorize it as good, great?
Well, it was the best we played. I thought the best we played up front with our O-line was Saturday night. But our perimeter blocking has been really good all year. And our wideouts have a good sense of, in man coverage, I'm going to run a guy off, and my blocking, and when do I got to turn when he turns. And they take a lot of pride in that. That's the one thing I'm proud of. That's a selfless group of guys that want to block on the perimeter, both tight ends and wide receivers.
You guys, the last 2 games have run off more than 5 minutes at the end of the game to end the game. What goes into a good 4-minute drill?
Well, if you have the ability to run it when everybody knows you're going to run it, you're going to have a chance to win the game. And there's no question everybody in the stadium knows you're going to run it then. And I said we run a lot of the same plays. We maybe ran it out of different formations. But that's, again, that's always the key. To run it when everybody knows you're going to run it, to kill the clock and to finish out a game is going to be really critical. And it was in this game. Because you don't want, when you're struggling defensively or you got young guys out there, as much as we love tempo and all that, your 4-minute offense, whatever you want to call it, to win the game with the lead in the fourth quarter is what's going to carry you.
Rich, when Khalil embraced you at the end of the game, he said, "I told you, Coach. I told you." Can you elaborate maybe about what it was he told you?
No, what about? He told me a lot of things. I tell him a lot of things. I think a lot of things left best unsaid. But no, I'm proud of him. I mean, he's been wanting a shot, and you had to earn it. You had to earn your shot, and when he got healthy, he kind of earned it, made the most of it so far. And I mean, I'm not putting the brakes on anything because he's played phenomenally in a couple weeks, and I'm proud of the way he's going. But I said his best football, and I think for a lot of guys, his best football is still out in front of him. We can run a lot of the offense, a lot more than last year, certainly. But there's a lot more of the offense we're going to continue to build as he progresses and as the rest of our guys progress.
That 71-yard touchdown in the second half when he kind of bobbled the snap, was that supposed to be a pass and then he just...
Yeah, he was supposed to bobble it, and then it was supposed to be a pass, and then he was supposed to make 2 guys miss and then break it. No, he took a broken play. I mean, really, the timing was off a little bit there, and it was just a great individual effort.
We're seeing with him a lot more, he's doing a lot more ball faking, like maybe faking pitching, fake than we saw with Brandon. Is that maybe more?
No, it's the same. It's read. A lot of it's reads, hand it off or pitch it or whatever. So, and his decision making has been pretty good. In the Colorado game, it was phenomenal for guys. One of his first few, not starts, but extended playing time, and it was good again in this game. His decision making was pretty good too. And we put a lot on our quarterbacks decision wise. But whether he's makes the right decision or not, what he's been doing has been decisive. Either way, it was like, I should have handed it off, but he's not hitting there freezing. He's trying to make something happen even when it's not the 100% correct decision.
Have you been surprised at the speed that he's displayed, especially?
He's run faster than I thought. I mean, and again, we're not live in practice on our quarterbacks, so sometimes it's hard to see. But even in some previous games, I think he's running more decisively, and he can run a little bit too. But he's pulled away from some fast guys, so he's run faster than we even thought he is. So, and I didn't realize till Coach Smith said, he's 20 pounds lighter than he was a year ago too. So that probably helps.
Is that hard to see in practice? Because Bruce Arians said something yesterday where he talked about Adrian Peterson, and he said that we could see on Thursday where that run might be 4 yards. Can you tell in practice sometimes like that ability from a quarterback?
A little bit, because we go live and we don't. We let the guys. We talk about with quarterbacks. They got to touch them with 2 hands, and I don't. Again, I never prescribed to the thing. Well, the guy's a gamer more than a practice guy. Everything happens faster, but certainly for Khalil, when he's broke or separated away from some people, whether it's on the sidelines or through the middle, nobody's catching him. So he has run faster than we thought, but he's in probably his best shape of his life too.
You guys, defensive guys would hit Rosen a lot after the handoff. they're kind of like zone read looking plays, but
Yeah,
I don't know if
that's
they're
where they
exactly
were.
the same. But is that something that they were instructed to do, or were they just?
Well, yeah, they got a fair quarterback player on a zone read, and he's not a guy that pulled a lot. So there's sometimes we probably should have surfed down or what have you, but there were times when they were quarterback players in the zone read, and they don't know whether he's handing off or not, so they're just taking the quarterback.
You guys are halfway through the season. What's your kind of overall outlook on things?
Well, we're right in the middle of everything. This is, as you all saw this last weekend in college football, about anything can happen every weekend, and certainly in our league. I don't think there's anybody in our league without a loss now, and so there's a lot of halfway through there. Just about everybody's still in the middle of it, and that's where you want to be. We're certainly disappointed that we stubbed our toe a couple of times, but you can't get those back. Now it's, I don't want to say reset, but now we know we're right in the middle of a long stretch of really good football teams, and my hope and expectation is that we'll play better as we go forward, and hopefully we, a little banged up at times, but hopefully we can, play good football and, be in a mix of it at the end of the season.
Scotty Young had to come out of the game, I think, in the second quarter.
Mhm.
Is that a long-term type of thing or a short?
Injury report to come on Thursday. That's right, Thursday. And trust Blair what he puts on there. I think he'll be pretty accurate. I don't know how he's messing with you guys sometimes.
I mean, is there any discussion about the smoke situation with the fires in California and the possible effects of that this week?
No, I was actually talking with our guys last week. I know there was concern with the Washington State game, whether they could have it or what the index level was. And that's just such a tragedy when you read about it. But from my understanding, a lot of it is cleared up from where Berkeley is at, that there will be no issues with that.
Anything else for Coach? Okay.
Okay.